Good morning, everybody. My name is Adrian Fadias. I work with TASB Benefits Cooperative, also known as First Public, and we do benefits for school districts, and we also do our investments, which some of y'all currently use. So we just want to say thank you. Some of the investments are it's the Lone Star Investment Pool. So we just want to talk to you about the TASB Benefits Health Plan. As you know, the Senate Bill 1444 was recently signed last year, so it allows schools to either jump out of TRS or to stay into TRS. I don't know if y'all are aware, over 100 schools jumped out of TRS this past year. I didn't hear of any that jumped in. I know there was a few rumbles about some of the budget that they wanted to jump in, but at the end of the day, they did not. So, as you know, recently signed by Governor Abbott, it allows school districts to enter or leave the state health insurance program. So if you do jump out or if you do jump in, whichever way you choose to do, you have to stay in 5 years or stay out 5 years. You cannot say after 2 years of being out that you want to come back to TRS or vice versa. So you are locked in for those 5 years. So you'll ask yourself, what are your options? Like I mentioned, you can stay in TRS. If you do want to stay in TRS, you don't have to do anything. You just keep doing what you're doing, continue with TRS, continue the new plans that they offer you, and you evaluate those plans, and then your district, your board will decide whether you guys want to increase the current amount that's being budgeted for the employee portion on the deduction, on the premiums, I'm sorry. Or you could leave TRS, which I just mentioned, over a little over 100 school districts left this past year. And so those that did leave, like I mentioned earlier, have to stay out for those entire 5 years. Or you can join TRS, but like I mentioned, scrolling through the across the state, we didn't see not one school. There was one or two schools that were considering it, but at the end of the day, they decided not to do that. So, like I mentioned, you have three options. You can stay in TRS, you can leave TRS, or for those schools that are not in TRS, you can join them. But I think a lot of our schools here in the Valley are stuck with TRS. I think there's maybe a handful that jumped out. I know before this took into place, the SB 1444, you were able to jump out of TRS or offer additional health plan, which many schools did. However, September 1st of 2022, offering dual options went away. So we go back to that Senate Bill 1444. You either had to stay in TRS and only offer TRS, or jump out and go with that alternative plan that was being offered previously, or jumping in with something your TPA or your current broker was offering at that time. So with TASB Benefits Cooperative, we started looking into what we could do for our clients, and we work with clients across the state. And so we created what's called a TASB Benefits Health Plan. And we've since last year, we had about 7 groups jump on, and majority of those groups were coming directly to us directly, but they could also go through their broker. So we're working a little differently what we were doing before. So if you currently have a broker or a TPA, we could also work through them. It was last year we were going direct, so it was a little different. That we saw a few hiccups where when we were enrolling the benefit, we're enrolling the medical on one platform and then enrolling your other benefits on a different platform. So we revamped and now started working with brokers, TPAs, to help make it a smoother process. So when your current broker TPA is offering your HSA or FSA, they can look at your current benefits and they can make sure that they align with your medical insurance plan. So one of the good things about our TASB Benefit Health Plan is that we also offer our network is also through Blue Cross Blue Shield, just like TRS. So the good thing about that, the majority of your doctors, hospitals wouldn't change. That's something that's just a key feature that's offered. The rate stability, we haven't had a rate increase of over 3% over the past 5 years. I know with TRS, they've been averaging between 7 and 9%. We ran into one of the representatives I think it was in September at TASB, and I know they mentioned they were looking at a big hike, anywhere between 10 to 15% for the new year for TRS. So just something to consider before jumping out or staying with TRS. We are a pool, so we have a little over 43,000 members currently in our pool, and we rate you individually. So if you're a healthy group, your rates may be better than what you currently have with TRS. We also provide a dedicated account manager. So during this whole implementation process, whether you're jumping out of TRS, we walk you through the process and make sure that we walk you step by step during the enrollment, implementation, and post-open enrollment. And so we have dedicated teams, just like what TRS offers. Our TASB Benefits Health Plan also offers the same thing. So one of the things that we do is when you're considering jumping out of TRS, we go ahead and look at what's being offered at TRS. So when we're quoting you guys and going through the underwriting process, we want to make sure that we're matching apples to apples. And so what the first thing we do is we look at the TRS plan and we try to create something similar to that. And at the end of the day, we look at how competitive those rates are. And if they're competitive to what TRS is, then we kind of come back to you and say, look, there's a chance that it is better for you to leave TRS because you could save your district money. But there's also been districts that we say, you know what, the rates are too high, your group is not very healthy, you're better off staying with TRS. So we've kind of been a guinea pig to many school districts, brokers. Did you have a question? No, so what happens is that you have to pull that data from TRS, and I can send you the information. I'll leave you my card. And what happens is that you pull the information from TRS. That usually takes about 7 to 10 business days. Once we get it, we look at it, and it takes about same thing, 7 to 10 business days, sometimes faster. And then, like we say, there's no obligation. We look at it, we send you the data back, and at the end of the day, if it's competitive, we say, you know what, there's a possibility to save your district money. Again, if it's not, then we say, you know what, we have to decline. Uh, on the outside, it's kind of interesting working with TASB. You know, as a broker, you'd want to be, oh, you know what, we have the plan, we can beat TRS. But in this instance, we've actually declined more than actually bringing on onto our pool. Good question. So as I mentioned, you know, we do the similar plan. The first thing we do is we look at the plans, compare them to TRS, and then at the end, if like I said, if they're competitive, we send them back to you, and if not, we just decline the offer. There is some equity renewal credits, so we act like a full insured plan and a self-insured plan at the same time because at the end of the day, if your loss ratio is running well, then some of those monies return back to the district to try to reduce the rates or to try to maintain the rates at the same amount. There is also a wellness incentive program for employee and spouses. So if your employee and spouse are covered on the insurance plan and they will get a wellness checkup, such as a physical, then we'll send them out a $150 check to each one of them. So what do you need to get a quote is your employee census, date of birth, gender, zip code, the TRS active care tier and plan option. Of course, we can get the summary health information from TRS. Those are already posted on the website. And then we'll go ahead and upload that data, you know, encrypted so it's safe and secure for your employees. But yeah, like I mentioned, there's no obligation. We get the data, review it, and then at the end of the day, we share that with you. And like I mentioned, we've been a guinea pig and to most clients and say, should I stay or leave? And if they leave, and so right now we're kind of going through a program. If we are competitive in those plans, and you sign up before end of the year, then we lock in those rates for the September 1st of 2023. So would it be no 9 months from January to September? We wouldn't look at the loss or the claims data at that time. Like I mentioned, you can request your data right here. You can request from the TRS portal. That's the web page. And like I mentioned, it's about a 7 to 10 day business. And you want to ask for data till the end of September 31st of 2022. So how can you participate in a TASB Benefits Health Plan? One of the first things we would need is a interlocal approved by your school board. And then per the SB 1444, documentation of support from your governing body, that meaning your superintendent, your school board signing a letter saying that you do intend to leave TRS. And then at that time, then you'll need to notify TRS before December 31st of this year to inform them that you will be leaving for the September 1st of 2023. And again, a reminder, if you do leave TRS, just remember that is a 5 year minimal. You have to be out for 5 years and can I return before that? So just some things to consider, the time consideration, data from TRS. Like I mentioned, that usually takes about 7 to 10 business days. Quotes from the provider, like TASB Benefits Health Plan, those usually another 7 business days, 7 to 10 business days. And then of course, decision making on your district, and then of course, your board. I know sometimes your board may only meet once a month, so that's another thing to consider when deciding to leave TRS or not. I know we're quoting all the way till the end of November, right before Thanksgiving. I know usually December usually gets pretty hectic for us. I know it does for the school districts trying to close out for the year and get everything ready for the following for January. So don't forget, if you choose to make any no changes to TRS, I want to say there's nothing you have to do. The only time you have to make any changes is if you're leaving TRS. And right here is my contact information. As I mentioned, my name is Adrian Farias. I work with TASB, also known as First Public. We're a subsidiary of First Public of TASB because of our investment license that we carry. And as I mentioned, some of your districts currently use our Lone Star investment pool. So thank you for that. And then of course my office number 512-467-3683, and then my cell phone 956-975-5753. I'm here to answer any questions. Like I mentioned, there's no obligation to look at it, and at the end of the day, we that's a good thing about it about what TASB does is they're here for their client first, and so at the end of the day, if it's in your best interest, we show you that, and if it's not, we simply decline to respectfully decline to offer any additional benefit. So